Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of the Trevor Ohlsen Show. Episode number, if I am remembering correctly, episode number 50. 50 episodes. Can we believe it? Let's celebrate. 50 episodes. Episode number 50 on Wednesday, April 7th. April 7th, 2021. I am your host, Trevor Ohlsen. How is everybody doing? What's going on? How is everyone? Good to be back, as always, here on Wednesdays and Saturdays. The normal routine, if you don't already know it, folks. Wednesdays and Saturdays. Good to be here, as always. It is indeed a pleasure. What are we talking about today? I think I'm going to briefly, not really briefly, just discuss with you the rest of the trip as promised, but I was going to do that on the Saturday episode, but I ended up more so, I had a conversation with Shane, so we focused on that. But if I'm not mistaken, last Wednesday's episode covered from my leaving of Michigan and ending up in Houston, Texas. I almost just said Houston, Arizona. Houston, Arizona. All right, so let's continue onward, friends. So I'm in Houston. I pop on over to the, I think maybe I briefly covered this, but that's all right. The Houston Museum of Natural Science. I think it was called that. And the best museum I had been to, I did briefly cover this, but that's okay. I'll recap. Dinosaurs, human bodies, because they had the Body Works exhibit on display, which I would highly recommend you look up if you have no idea what I'm talking about. Just type in Body Works museum exhibit, and I'm sure it'll pop up. But yeah, so there was that. There was ancient Egyptian relics. Is that the right word? There was ancient Egyptian relics things. I saw a mummy. I saw a decapitated mummy's head, which was very nice. And then I went to the Holocaust Museum, which I didn't know what to expect. But if I'm being completely honest, there was just a cute girl there that I ran into, and we walked the whole museum together, and we just talked, and we had lunch afterwards. So I paid to get into this museum, and then a museum that should be absolutely paid attention to. It was the Holocaust, so I mean, I think it's important to not only remember, but to study and learn history, especially with regards to human atrocity. And I just ended up talking with this cute chick the whole time. And then halfway through, I was like, "You want to grab lunch?" She said yes. And I had an amazing spicy chicken sandwich that had coleslaw on it. Because I took the first bite, and I can't do like too much spice. And the first bite I was like, oh no, this is not good. And then I took another bite though, and I got this big hit of coleslaw underneath, and just the freshness and the physically how it was cold. It was very nice. It was a really nice combination to offset the heat. And then, yeah, parted ways with her, and from there, I think I cruised right to Austin. I cruised it was like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, cruised over to Austin, stumbled upon McKinney State Falls Park, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm remembering correctly. And I pulled up. There was this gentleman checking people in. I rolled up, and he said, "Hey, no more sites are available." And I was kind of bummed out. I was like, oh man, I just driven all day. I mean, I had driven for a few hours, but it was 7 and it was getting dark, and I was really hoping to just settle in there. And I was like, okay, man. And there was actually, I did end up staying in the park, and there was a ton of spots open, but the only reason I wasn't allowed to stay was because of COVID restrictions, which were being lifted the next day. So all sites were going to be available, and it was just stupid. It's like, I'm 100 feet from any person in my car. COVID is not going to, and we're outside, it didn't make any sense. And so he starts pointing me in other directions where I could go. Super nice guy. And I was like, and I just asked him, I was like, is there any possible exception that I could stay here tonight? And he was kind enough to allow me to take his guest spot. So I parked right in front of his RV, and his name is Bob, and I met his wife Marita. Funny enough, they're from Madison, Wisconsin, and they had been to Iron Mountain many times. Him especially, working at the VA. So small world, man. Pretty funny. And they were so generous, and they were so hospitable. And I stayed there a couple nights, and each morning, I woke up, they had coffee and breakfast for me. I mean, they were so sweet. And I stayed there for a couple nights. The first day I went right into downtown Austin. I went to the Capitol first off, which if you're in Austin and you've never seen the Capitol building there, I would recommend checking it out because it was spectacular. It's bigger than the Washington Capitol, which is something. That just goes to show how much pride there is in Texas and just what they're up to down there. I say that in a very good way. I don't want to offend anybody. Actually, I think we should speak our minds, and if that risks offending people, so be it. Anyhow, hung out in the Capitol, checked out the building, stood in awe, really was spectacular. From there, I cruised down. I wanted to grab some lunch. And I remember Rogan talking about, I'm always mentioning Joe Rogan. I remember Joe Rogan mentioning a specific barbecue place downtown. And so I wanted to go check that out. Terry Black's, not Terry White's, Terry Black's. And went down there, had some barbecue, met this Russian woman named Dasha. And I was confused when I walked in the building because I was expecting to be seated, to be served, that kind of thing. Just it was, as restaurants do, and there was none of that. It was like a cafeteria line, so I was kind of confused. And I just asked the woman who was in front of me. I was like, "Hey, how's this work?" And this is Dasha, and she was like, "Oh yeah, and here's what we do. Just stand in line, tell them what you want, blah 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 blah." I was like, "Okay, great." So her and I are talking in line. And I asked her if she was there with anybody. She wasn't. And I asked her if she wanted, again, I had lunch with like a dozen people. I was like, I asked her if she wanted to have lunch together. She said yes. And we filled up the plates. I had brisket, and I had green beans and peach cobbler, and I think rice and all sorts of good shit. And she was so kind. She was kind enough to pay for my lunch, which was very thoughtful. And we had lunch together, and then afterwards we went to an art exhibit, and we were gonna get together later that night, but it didn't end up happening. But after the art exhibit, I had seen people kayaking on Lady Bird Lake, which, if I'm understanding correctly, is a river and not a lake, unless it connects and feeds into a lake. But it was definitely a river. It looks like a river, but it's called Lady Bird Lake. And so I went and rented a kayak for an hour, enjoyed the river. I was cruising all up and down. Not all up and down, an hour's worth of cruising all up and down Lady Bird Lake. It was very nice. It was fun to just get out on the water and just to do something physical. I was looking at all the houses up on the hillside, because there was just these massive houses that I was looking up at, and it was cool. From there, and then I went to a Zilker Park, if my memory serves me right. Zilker Park, and there was thousands of people there, thousands of young people. There's a trail that there was tons of people running, biking, jogging, crawling, scraping on their ass like a dog. Not really. All up and down that trail. And it was great. It was just fun to see. Austin felt very energetic. It felt very young and full of life and vibrant. And there was thousands of people in the field. Some people playing volleyball. Some people just hanging out, probably smoking some smoke in the reefer. If there was 1,000 people there, there's also probably 100 dogs, which was cool. Dogs running everywhere, playing together. It was just really fun to see. Also, everyone was just really happy to get out. I mean, I forget, because things are pretty relaxed up here, comparatively speaking, compared to cities. And so they were just you could tell that people were ready to get out and about. So it was very nice to see everybody out there. I could totally see staying in Austin as far as a city. I could just see staying in Texas in general. Texas was a fucking cool place. And so stayed there for a couple nights. Like I said, hung out with Bob and Marita. We had great conversations, and I can't thank them enough for taking me in. And so from Austin, you're getting the full what? Story. From Austin, I cruised to San Antonio, where my old college friend, not my old friend, fuck you, my friend Zach Ward, who's been on the podcast, he is from San Antonio, and his parents live down there, and he said that they would host me. So I had texted them the night before and was like, hey, not sure if you remember me, but because they had met me when I had long hair, and I was like, hey, I was that long-haired boy who helped haul your son's couch down an elevator. They remembered me, and I told them, I was like, just so you know, I don't have any hair anymore, so I'm gonna look different. And they let me stay with them for a couple days. I was pretty tired at that point. I had been going pretty non-stop. And so, I mean, Stephanie is her name. She was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, laundry and sleep. But the first night I had dinner with Randy. He took me out to dinner at this nice place. What did I have? I had a bunch. I had a burger and shrimp tacos, and I ate all of it, which surprised me because I didn't think I was going to eat that much. But, and then just crashed that night, took it easy. And the next day, Stephanie and she took me around. Now, if you've been to the Alamo, you've been to the Alamo, but you might not be aware, and you're probably not aware of the fact that so that's called a mission. And there's, if my memory serves me right, there's 4 other missions there. And if this is correct, please correct me if I'm wrong, if somebody out there knows the history. If I'm remembering, it's basically, these missions were put up, and they were put up to spread Christianity, if I'm right. And then, but also, I think they were kind of used as a guise to, because they were going further and further south. And I think it was they were expanding their territory, sort of, but they were also spreading religion. But it was also them, like, expanding the Texas territory. That could be completely incorrect. But let's not fact check. Let's pretend it's right. So I got to see all 5 missions there. And the Alamo, if I'm being honest, I wouldn't even say it was the best one. There was one there, San Jose. I don't know if that's right. Look it up. There's one there that, these amazing old churches built in the 1700s. And then there was one there. I mean, man, it was literally surrounded by a fortress, like a massive wall, big, massive wall. And it was so cool to see. And I was just trying to envision living, because people live there. People would live there in that area, and they would learn, and they'd pursue education there. They would go to the church. I mean, it was really, really fascinating to just be there and to think, like, people were doing this 300 years ago. It was very cool. So I would recommend, if you're in the San Antonio area, don't just check out the Alamo. Be sure to go check out the other missions. They're all within drivable distance, and they're not as touristy as the Alamo, which is nice. Go check out the Alamo. Obviously, it's right downtown. I also did the San Antonio River Walk. I really enjoyed San Antonio. I had some great. I went to this restaurant, Rio, where it was a Tex-Mex restaurant, and I had the fajitas. They were spectacular. I had 5. They were really, really good. And I just pounded them down and enjoyed it was right on the San Antonio River walk. There's the San Antonio River that cuts right through downtown. I did that, and then I was to the point where I felt a little lethargic and a little full. And so I hopped on, because they have these river boats. You can just pay to hop on. And so I went and did that right after I had lunch, and it was actually really fun. The guide, she did a great job of explaining the history of the different buildings and what everything was, and here's this, here's that, and it was really, really fun. And then I went and did the Towers of Americas, where Americas, plural, 700 feet up in the air, I think, 800 feet, I don't know, something like that. And just to see the an aerial perspective of San Antonio, and it was so fucking windy up there. It was horrifying. It was it was scary, because you could be inside just in the glassed area, but then you could walk outside, and I mean, you're getting hit with wind, 800 feet up. And and it was, I mean, I had my glasses in my shirt, and they were fucking blowing out. And if I had hair, it would have been blowing beautifully like a model. So I went and did that, and then that's when I went to Stephanie and Randy. Stephanie and Randy, thank you for taking me in. Had a great time with you guys. So San Antonio, loved it. I really enjoyed it. And interestingly enough, Stephanie kind of explained to me, and I had never thought of this, that there's a lot of pride in Texas, and I think as there should be. But there was one thing I found interesting. Just like I think there's a lot of pride everywhere, wherever you go. There's going to be somebody who's very, very proud of and prideful of the UP. There's going to be somebody who's very, very proud and prideful of Seattle, of Denver, of Phoenix, like wherever. There's going to be somebody who it's their place. It's their fucking place, And bro. But interestingly enough, she said sometimes people become so prideful in Texas that they feel that they don't have to go anywhere else. And so they develop this lack of nuance and lack of understanding of the other fucking places in the world. And I was like, man, that is just ringing true for for people here as well. And it just made me realize, again, I think a lot of people think that who live in, I think this is like an epiphany for me. Get ready for it. No matter where you're from, you feel like you're in your own bubble. You feel like, man, I got to get out of here. I got to get somewhere else. I got to go do this. I got to go do that. And you should go do those things, whatever it is that's calling to you. But then it's like you go to another place and you expect it to be different. And then the locals there are like, man, I got to get out of here. I got to go do it. It's like everyone's in their own little bubble. And a lot of people, I think young people, because young people in particular are kind of pretty cynical. Because we don't know what the fuck we're doing yet with life. And I've tried my hardest not to become cynical at all, so I recommend that as well. But, like, where was I going with this? We all feel as if we're in our own little bubble, and as if we just got out of this bubble, everything would be okay. But it's like, no place is better than any other. They're just different. That was another realization. It's like, no place is better. New York isn't better than Phoenix. It's just different. Because somebody might thrive in New York and hate Phoenix, but there's going to be another person who thrives in Phoenix and hates New York. It all comes down to the individual and their temperament and where they want to be. And if you want to be in a city, go to a city. If you want to stay in a small town or go to a small town, go to a small town. You want to be in the middle, like Nashville or like Colorado or something like that, where it's not New York or LA, but there's still a lot going on. There's a lot of shit to do. It's like, go do that. You got to listen to your inner voice, that inner guide, those internal intuitions. You have to follow them, or you're going to regret it. You're going to regret not listening to that inner voice. And you're even if you listen to that inner voice and fucking disaster happens, or it's whatever it is that you're being led to, if it fails, at least you tried. That's it. At least you gave an effort. And then I would go on to say that, I mean, my cousin once told me that if I didn't become successful as a musician, that it wouldn't be my fault, that I gave enough effort. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that is complete bullshit. Although he meant it very well, in a kind manner. If I don't succeed at my own definition of success, if it's financial, if it's if it's playing clubs, at theaters, like whatever it is, success is to me. First off, if I don't get there, that's completely my fault. That's completely my responsibility, and I can say that. But also, I'm still actively like working towards everything that I'm doing, so I'm engaged in the process. But yeah, man, if I just gave up one day, it's like, that's fucking my fault. That's completely on me. It's because I don't know, connect with the right people, or I didn't move, or I didn't put in enough time writing. I didn't put in enough time doing shows. I didn't put in enough time doing vocal exercises and getting better on stage and learning how to move my body. I don't know, like anything. At the end of the day, whatever it is that you want to do, if it comes down to you and this idea of hyper-personal responsibility, that you are responsible for everything that goes on in your life. And actually, when you view life that way, through a lens of hyper-personal responsibility, when you do that, all of a sudden things are, meant psychologically speaking, they seem as if they're in your control. Because at least now you're putting forth effort, because life is an effortful existence, in order for you and for me and for everybody to be psychologically thriving and to be feeling as if we're engaged and have meaning in our lives. It all requires effort, and there's certain requirements that we have to do on a daily basis that are physical. Like, everyone's sitting around becoming sedentary and getting like really, really out of shape and feeling like dog shit and feeling fucking terrible and miserable. It's like, you aren't meant to just sit and watch TV. It's like, there wasn't TV 1,000 years ago. It's like you were out working, because if you didn't, you'd starve. It's like there was a sense of immediacy, because, as obvious as it sounds, if you're hungry, you eat. If you're thirsty, you drink. Now we have, it's the paradox of success. It's the paradox of what? Of having a surplus of resources, because we have grocery stores, and we have electricity, and we have beds, and we have microphones, and $1,000 phones and laptops, and we have all this shit, and we have everything that we need. And so it's like, oh, we can just relax. But when you relax and you don't do anything, it's like you feel fucking horrible. And so we are physical beings, and there are physical requirements that we have to continue to do. We have to struggle. We have to struggle mentally. We have to struggle physically. We have to, in order to feel good about ourselves, because we are designed that way. We are not designed to sit around and fucking binge on Netflix. These are all new things. We can't forget that technology is so new. It's so new, and we're slowly but surely figuring out the negative consequences of overindulging in, let's say, binge watching Netflix, or just on being on the computer all day and not socializing, whatever it may be. There are negative, dire consequences to not pursuing physical challenges and social interactions face to face with people, friendship, family, camaraderie, whatever it may be. These are just certain things that are how do you say it? I don't know. They're requirements. There's just certain requirements that people have, that the rise of technology the rise of technology seems to be mitigating it. But I think people are becoming self-aware and realizing that, because they're like, wow, I feel like shit. What am I doing? Oh, I'm just sitting on Facebook all day, on Instagram all day, on Twitter all day, on TikTok all day. Oh, okay, I feel horrible. Maybe I should stop doing that. Maybe I should get outside. Like, whatever it is that you have to do, you got to get out. You got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, religiously. I'm no pun intended. No pun intended. I don't know how to say it. But there's just I don't even know how I got on this topic, but we just have to continue to meet our physical requirements. And we are at a place in time, in history, where, at least in America, there is abundance. You can hate America, like apparently people are doing these days, but I don't know, go to, where's a bad place? Go to Iraq as a woman, try to hang out, have a good time, catch some sun in your bikini. I don't know. That's not gonna. They'll burn you. they'll hang you. Like we can't forget how amazing America is, and the fact that the central core of what this country is founded upon is freedom and the individual. And we've got our problems, as every country does, because my God, a country is so complex for my little brain. Like, I can't even kind of wrap my head around everything that's going on politically and then economically and socially. I mean, it's so much. It's so complex. So the fact that it's working at all is an absolute miracle. It's like, I was just listening to this podcast yesterday and today, and it's like, I was being reminded, it was Jordan Peterson and Jocko Willink, and Jordan said, it's like, everything good in life is precious and rare. Because they were discussing how Jocko, Navy SEAL, he's seen war, and he's watched, or he's seen, a father's head be taught, a father become beheaded by, extremists in the Middle East, and they throw it in the family's yard, and it's like there's horrible things happening around the world, and the fact that you are listening to this means you have a laptop or a computer, and you're probably in an apartment or a house, and you're probably in a town that isn't burning to the ground, unless you're in like Portland. Maybe this isn't a good time to use this example. No, it's like most cities aren't burning. And we have to remember that peace, it doesn't just happen without truly, like, our military and people holding the ground and willing to make the sacrifices that they do. It's like we would not have the peace that we have. And I mean, America itself is we are in a bubble, and I personally, I can't speak for you, but it's so easy for me to forget of how blessed and fortunate we are. But then when you hear what's going on in other countries, and again, we have our problems, but I mean, what's going on in other countries for thousands of years, I mean, we've got it good, guys. We do. We've got it good. So anyway, let's get back to the trip. I think I'll do an hour today. I'm feeling good. Let me grab some water. So I cruised out of San Antonio. I was going to go to El Paso, but then Stephanie and Randy suggested that I go to Big Bend National Park. They shoved it down my fucking throat. You gotta go. So, which I'm glad they did, because I went there and it was gorgeous. It was spectacular. I mean, I couldn't believe I was still in Texas. The mountains, the topography. Is that the word? Let's look up topography together, guys. Topography. The arrangement of the natural and artificial physical features of an area. A detailed description or representation on a map of the natural and artificial features of an... I think I got it, guys. The arrangement of the natural and artificial physical features of an area. Topography. So I went there. Really spectacular topography. Mountains, all over, canyons all over. I went and hiked the Santa Elena Canyon, the Rio Grande, cutting through two 1,500-foot canyons. I ended up in Mexico. I got a text that said, "Welcome to Mexico." I then fled into Mexico, stole a bunch of Mexican babies. I don't know. Stole a bunch of Mexican children, brought them back to the border, and realized that they didn't want to be here. No, I just crossed over into, I was just on a hiking path, and I got a text. "Welcome to Mexico. Welcome to Mexico." And I was like, "Oh, great. Cool." Don't have my passport, but here I am. But it was cool because it's like you're right by the border, and there's border patrol stations that you pass, and there's all sorts of, I mean, you're right on the border of Texas and Mexico. So, but Big Bend National Park, man, it's beautiful. If you ever have a chance to get there, southwest corner of Texas, go check it out. And the stars there too. It's considered one of the best areas, I think at least in the United States, for stargazing. Just because it's so beautiful. I just realized I might lose the camera feed if I do an hour. Well, we'll see what happens. This might swap over to audio. Anyhow, I need a separate camera for this fucking podcast. But from there, and then I cruised up north to Marfa, 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 which was this little town made famous by let me find out, an established New York artist who just moved there one day. Here we go. It was by Donald Judd, established New York artist, went out there, and then he was just, I don't know, it's like one of those little small towns that had one significant person, or at least, in the artistic sense, a significant person moved there, and it made the little town famous. But I mean, it was a population like 1,800, 2,000. I mean, I stayed in a little trailer park and showered. I hung out and had a great time. I met a couple out to dinner, and I talked with them for like 2 hours. We had great conversation, just great people. And the gentleman, he really encouraged me to travel abroad, which I most definitely will be doing, because it's something I've been thinking about, and I'm going to do it. That's all. And he had lived in Japan. He had lived out kind of all over the world. And so he's like, you got to do it. And he actually encouraged me by saying that what I'm doing now is actually more difficult than going over and just traveling Europe, because Europe is so small and interconnected. He's like, you can just buy, whatever, a 6-month pass on the train that you see on the telly, on the transit. I'm doing a UK accent, UK and Europe. And he's like, you can just bounce all over Europe. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah, that sounds awesome. So I'm going to for sure do that someday. Whether my music takes me over, I'm sure I will end up playing music over there. I'm sure of it, hopefully. And no, Trevor, you have to believe and manifest it. Just envision it in your head and it'll come true. Do I have to do any work? No, you just have to envision it. So should I practice singing? No, just manifest it. I think they left out working hard in The Secret. So I'm gonna go do that someday. Even if if my music takes me over there, great. If it doesn't, I'll just go over there and travel. Probably do it solo again. That at least I would picture myself doing it solo now. As a single, as a bachelor, living the bachelor life. Anyhow, cruised up from Marfa to Marfa. What a funny name. I cruised up to Carlsbad, New Mexico. My little foot's falling asleep. Cruised up to Carlsbad, New Mexico. Now, if you haven't heard, in Carlsbad, there's the famous Carlsbad Caverns. I just realized my head's like too high up. That's all right. The Carlsbad Caverns. Here we go. Drop it down. There we go. Carlsbad Caverns. And I really didn't know what to expect. I just heard that if you're in the area, you should go there. So I roll up. There's cars everywhere. There's people everywhere. I walk into the visitor center. I look around. I see signs all over. Tickets sold out. Tickets sold out. Tickets sold out. And I was like, it's a fucking cave. I was like, you can't commodify a cave to the point where I'm no longer allowed to enter. And so I was like, it's a natural earth. It's a natural part of the earth. Technically, I think it's federal property. But anyway, it's a natural part of the earth in my mind. So I thought maybe I could sweet talk my way in, charm the lady at the front desk, but she was not having it. I was like, is there any possible exception? But she cut me off. She was like, no. And I was like, oh, you bitch. I didn't think that. But I started to talk again, and the phone rang, and she cut me off and answered the phone. And in my mind, I was like, how dare you make the phone a priority over the person who's looking you in the eye in front of you? So then, kind of out of spite and revenge, I was like, I'm getting in this fucking cave. Because I'd driven 3 hours there. I was like, I'm getting in this cave. And so I started looking around the area, around the visitor center, where are the signs? And I see a big sign that says, natural entrance this way. And I was like, okay, I'm heading that way. And so I start cruising. Now, let me try to paint a picture for you. So there was one door to exit, okay? And there's a line on the right side, okay? And there was a gentleman there, and he was on the right with the people, and he was taking their tickets. And I was like, I'll just walk from the left. So I cut in front, I wasn't even technically in line. I just walked around. So for people watching on video, so here's the dude, and everyone's over here, and I just and I walked straight out the door, right past him, and and he goes, sir? And I just didn't look back and kept my pace. Sir? Finally, I kind of glanced back. He's like, do you have a ticket? But then he gave me a way out, and he's like, or are you just going to look at the entrance? And I was like, oh, yeah, man, I'm just checking out the entrance. And he was like, okay. So I kept going. And at that point, I'm conspicuous, you might say. I'm standing alone, walking down this path, and up in front of me, there's multiple groups of people, multiple families together walking to the main entrance. So I was like, I have to be as inconspicuous as possible if this is going to work. So I start power walking my way up to this family, and I was like, this will be my pseudo family. Hi, fake dad and brother. So there's a father and a son, wife. There's 3 of them. And I just kind of scurried my way in with them and started talking to him briefly. I'm like, how's it going? And so the 4 of us walked up together, and because there was another guy up there checking tickets again, but also explaining what to expect with the cave. He's like, you guys got tickets? And the dad was like, yep, 3. And I was the 4th person. But I had my mask on and my sunglasses, and I was just kind of nodding. And so he's explaining. All of a sudden he starts explaining. He's like, it's 750 feet deep. It takes 45 minutes to walk to the bottom. If you have to use the restroom, do it now. And I was like, I really gotta piss, but I was like, I cannot single myself out. I was like, I guess my little bladder's holding it for 45. So he explains it all, and I'm with my pseudo fake family, and we're hanging out, and he gets done explaining it, and he starts counting tickets again. But not so seriously, because some people are walking, but he's checking, and I just I skedaddled my way around and cut off this woman. I was like, oh, pardon me. And I just started zigzagging my way in around people and down the cave. And once I was about 100 feet into the cave, I was like, oh, I'm golden. So I snuck my way into Carlsbad Caverns, and I'm damn glad I did, because sometimes you gotta break the rules. And as somebody who's not used to breaking the rules, my heart was pounding like I was robbing a bank. And it was a little scary, because I don't like to. In my head I was like, who gives a fuck if they catch you? The worst thing that happens is they kick you out. But then Randy later explained to me. I saw him again later on in the trip. He was like, "Yeah, you're trespassing on federal property." I was like, I broke a federal crime, and now I'm announcing it on a podcast. So. Snuck into Carlsbad Caverns, and if you ever have to do that, I recommend it, because it was damn worth seeing. It's called the Underground Grand Canyon. spectacular. I mean, the stalagmites and stalactites, I think that's what they're called. I mean, it was truly, truly amazing. It was so massive, and I was trying to envision myself as an explorer who, oh, yep, you lost the video. That's all right. Maybe I can get it back if I change. There we go. Let's try this. All right, it's back briefly. I don't know if it's going to stay. Anyhow, where the fuck was I going? Oh, I was trying to explain. I was trying to put myself in the position of a 1912 explorer who ventured into the cave. There was at the bottom of this cave. Bottom. I mean, it seemed bottomless. You could truly explore that cave for years, and not cover it all. I mean, that's how big this cave was. And so there was close to the bottom. You look off path, and there's this big black hole you can't see the bottom of. And there's a ladder there made out of rope and rotting wood from 1912, from the original man who started exploring this cave. I was like, that man, I mean, how courageous, and I mean, truly, oh, sorry, you guys don't have any more video. How courageous and brave. Truly. Everyone's brave in 2021, but this man was actually brave. I mean, to risk his life and explore the unknown like that. And then for it to be commodified, so all the tickets are sold out. And the woman at the front desk, by the way, gave me such a bullshit excuse. She's like, well, you know, we can't have too many people down. But she said it very forcefully. She's like, we can't have too many people down there because of the lack of oxygen. And, you know, and I got into this cave, and I was like, you could fit every single person in this park who's here right now, pissed off that the tickets are sold out. Every single person could give you money, and we could all go enjoy it, because it was so massive that you could have thousands of people in this cave. Anyway, so it was spectacular. From Carlsbad, I cruised on over to Roswell, New Mexico for the aliens, obviously. For those of you who don't know, if I am correct in saying this, it was in 1947 that supposedly an alien spacecraft crashed in Roswell, New Mexico. There was a government cover-up. There was all sorts of shit. It's one of the UFO cases that is it's still questionable, meaning it's there. You can't prove it false, basically. Now, 85, roughly speaking, 85 to 90% of UFO sightings are explainable. They're misidentification. They're people with schizophrenia and other mental illnesses. I mean, there's a lot of shit that is easily explained when it comes to UFOs. But there's, 10 to 15% of UFO cases just aren't explainable, or there's something out. I don't know. There's something to it, and Roswell, New Mexico is one of those places. So I went to the UFO museum. I mean, they've really, just like America does, just like everywhere does, they've commodified it. Of course, I mean, there's aliens all over town. I went to the UFO museum. The street lamps are little alien heads. It's great. You go there for that. And actually, as I was cruising through Roswell, it was really fun because I was listening to these alien podcasts with guys shockingly, on Joe Rogan. And it was fun for me to listen to these alien podcasts where they were talking about Roswell, New Mexico, as I'm in Roswell, New Mexico. It was very cool. It was a trip. I did not go to the site, but I did put out into the, I let the aliens know. I was like, listen, I'm ready for you. I am ready for you to reveal yourselves, and I will not freak out. I mean, I would freak out, but I mean, no, I wouldn't freak out. They're listening now. No, I wouldn't freak out. It'd be fucking crazy, but I mean, I don't know. I'm ready for them. Are you? And the podcast like that. I'm ready for the aliens. Are you? Dead silence. So Roswell, apart from the aliens, I mean, that's what put it on the map. Just like the artist put Marfa on the map. But it was cool. I was gonna go to Albuquerque after that, and I decided against it only because I was kind of anxious to get out west to the Grand Canyon. And that was the plan anyway. So I cruised out west to Tucson, Arizona to an RV park. I think I drove like 7 hours that day. So by the time I got to the RV park, I was I was ready to sleep. And it was this nice RV park that I pulled up to. I went to the office. There was nobody there. I just found a spot and parked. I looked up that you could deal with in the morning. And this was called, Tucson RV and Resort. It was nice. And as I've been there for a half an hour, I'm finally getting settled in. This woman comes up and goes, "Excuse me." And I hop out. I was sitting in the back of the trunk with the trunk open. "Excuse me." And I get out and I'm like, "Oh, hi." And she goes, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, is this your RV park?" "Well, I manage it." "Oh, okay, yeah. Can I pay for the spot?" No, that's not how it works." "No, oh, okay. I mean, no, that's fine. You guys have, I've been staying at, RV parks, and I've just kind of been. You guys have a tent section that I could crash in?" "Well, do you have a tent?" "I don't, but I have a bed in my vehicle." "Well, if you don't have a tent, you can't have a tent section. We have rules here." And I was like, "I'll pay you for it. I mean, this is what I've been doing around the whole country. No, we have rules." And I was like, what the? She was just a complete bitch to me. So I got kicked out of the RV park. But before I left, I had the part that I had where I was parked. I had backed in I backed in around wires that were connected to a telephone pole. Those diagonal ones with the yellow caps. I don't know, holding them up for support. Is that what that is? I had backed around it and into a section. So it was clear that I wasn't going to hit it. I managed to get around it going backwards. And as I was shutting the trunk and getting ready to go, she's like, "Don't hit the wires on the way out." And I was like, "I'm not here to wreck your park, lady." And I didn't say it like that, but I said it a bit more like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I backed around these, all right? And you're out $50 because I would have fucking paid for it here." And so I went and slept at a fairground. She was like, "Yeah, there's a fairground," but because I asked her, I was like, before I, said I'm not here to wreck your park, I was like, "Do you know of any places that you could sleep that nearby?" And there was a fairgrounds that had been converted to an RV park. And she's like, "I don't know if they'll let you sleep in your car there either." I was like, "Wait, I've fucking been sleeping around the whole country, lady. Does Arizona have some weird arbitrary rule that doesn't allow people to sleep in their cars in RV parks?" So I went and slept there, and then I was all paranoid all night that I was going to get kicked out of there because the only spot that was available, again, because I technically slept there illegally because I didn't pay for anything, and you needed to have a permit to sleep there, and I didn't have any of that. So the only spot that I could find was just under. It was by a bunch of other vehicles there, but all the vehicles had, a little tag hanging from their mirror, their rear view mirror, so, showing that they had paid for it. The only spot that was available was under like a damn street lamp. So I'm getting lit up like, "Hey, I'm here and I haven't paid." So all night I was paranoid, but I did sleep well. And then I just cruised on out of there. I was like, fuck this place. But then I went to Phoenix, and I met up with a friend there who was kind enough to put me up in a hotel room, which was very nice of him. But before I could check in, I went to a deli called Dilly's Deli in Phoenix. Had a nice tuna sandwich, well done, Dilly's Deli. Tuna melt, tuna sandwich, whatever it was. Bunch of tuna, folks. And I was like, well, what else is there to do? I still have time. The hotel room hasn't been cleaned because of COVID-19. It hasn't been cleaned yet, and so I looked up things to do in Phoenix, and Camelback Mountain popped up, and I was like, I will go climb a mountain. And this was really one of the highlights of the trip that, it wasn't expected. I didn't know I was going to do it. It wasn't even that tall of a mountain. Excuse me. It was 2,700 feet in elevation. But man, it was fun to climb up. It was physically demanding. It was physically rewarding. It was really, really enjoyable. And you get to the top. It took me an hour to get to the top. And when you're up there, you're above the planes that are taking off at the airports, and there's mountains all over. Phoenix is truly a beautiful, beautiful state. And whenever I said that to anybody who was in Phoenix, they're like, no, it's only beautiful in the winter. Because it's hot as fuck in there, summer. But I really, really enjoyed it. And then I met a couple of these cute girls up at the very top. And I walked down to the bottom with them. And we talked about getting some drinks, but didn't happen. That's all right. And then I met up with my friend who put me up in the hotel room, him and his wife. And the next morning, and we talked for 3 hours and just had a great time. We talked about aliens. We talked about, I mean, everything. It was a blast. Ben and Mindy, thanks for putting me up. So from Phoenix, I cruised on up. And you got to remember, when you're on a road trip, the driving is part of the fun. Because if you just view the driving as a shitty part that has to happen to get from destination to destination, you're going to have a long trip, because there's a lot of driving if you're doing a solo road trip. And so I cruised on up to the Grand Canyon. I got there kind of late. I got there early enough to where I was able to get out onto kind of one of the main lookouts. And yeah, my God, I mean, I think the Grand Canyon is the most beautiful place I've ever laid my eyes upon. Just the vastness of it, and it's so huge. It's very humbling. It's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. I recommend it. So it was beautiful, but it was late, and so I slept in the parking lot that night. I just found a place by a church, in Grand Canyon Park. I guess there's a church there, which is cool. And I just slept in the dark corner. Tucked away, zero problems. Felt I was good, and it was good and safe. I was going to try to grab a campground that night, but I was like, there's no way I'll be able to, if I haven't paid for one already, get one. I was like, it's so many people there, and yeah, I was like, there's no way. So I just slept in the parking lot, which is fine, because I had my bed, which that lady didn't fucking let me sleep in the campground in Tucson. Slept the night. And then I think I'll just tell this last little story here, and then I'll continue it next podcast. But so the next day I wake up bright and early, feeling chipper, and I was like, all right, baby, I'm hiking into the Grand Canyon. So I start looking around for trails, and I'm determining which one I want to do, what's the difficulty level, because I want to do something that's definitely physically challenging, but isn't going to require, say, camping overnight in the canyon, because I don't have a tent or anything. Clearly, that lady, she knew I didn't have a tent, apparently. You're the first person I've met in Phoenix, or in Arizona, and I have to tell you that you're incredibly unwelcoming and unpleasant. So I find the trail to my liking called Bright Angel Trail, and I am unprepared for the realization that the first mile of the trail is covered in ice. Okay, because all of a sudden I'm seeing people with like ski rods that they're stabbing into the earth, and people with spikes on their shoes, and I've got my outdoor running shoes, but other than that, I am not prepared for ice, and for ice. And I don't know if you've ever hiked Bright Angel Trail before, but if you do, it's I the first mile is just, it's a zigzag, it's a mile of zigzag declines. And so you're going downhill, obviously, the whole time. And I mean, there were some, I had some scary moments. If you don't think that a steady decline with a big sheet of ice and no guardrails and a sheer drop-off doesn't make for a heart-pounding experience, you're fucking crazy. I was scared. Because it's not a wide trail. If there's two people, two-way traffic, it's maybe 6 feet wide at parts. So you've got, 3 feet to yourself. And if you're on the edge, that means you're 3 feet from death. And so there were moments where I was like, holy shit, this is scary. And I remember the first thing I did when I got there was I looked up. I was like, how many people die at the Grand Canyon each year? And there was 12. And I was like, that's 1 per month. And I was like, I will not be March. I was like, I'm coming home. I did not want to die at the Grand Canyon. Although it'd be a beautiful place to die, as far as just, topographically speaking. So I eased my way down, and at one point I like crab walk down. So I've got gloves on, and I'm crab walking on my hands and feet down, because oh man, there was parts, man, where you would slide, and just with the momentum and the weight of your body and the decline and the angle, you could slide right off the edge. And I was like, holy shit. And so I got on my hands and feet and just gently, body weight more close to the earth, center of gravity close to the earth. And man, so I crab walked my way down, and I was about probably 3/4 of a mile down. So I had gone a considerable distance, because people were saying that the first mile was ice, and then it cleared up. But I ran into this group of people, Chelsea, Aubrey, and Mike. And hi, guys, if you're listening. I ran into them, and they were sort of having the same thoughts, at least I know Mike was, of turning around. Because there was one point where it was so steep, and it was so smooth, ice-wise. I was like, I know I can slide down this, but I don't know if I can walk back up. It was a genuine thought. And I was very, very close to turning around and going up. But I met this group. They were all my age, roughly speaking, and they encouraged me, and I encouraged them, I suppose, a little bit to continue onward. And so we kept going, and I'm very, very glad we did, because the rest of the trail was good to go. The rest of the trail was dirt, like I expected it to be. Oh, there's ice on the trail. It's like all you people do is talk about how it's 120 degrees, and now there's ice. Nah, it's all right. So we hiked 3 miles in, and we hiked together, and it was fantastic. And then we hiked back up, and then so we decided to stick together, and we cruised. We wanted to do another hike, and it was about a 15-minute drive away. So I asked them if I was like, "Is it cool if I just ride with you guys?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, sure thing." Excuse me. And so I rode with them over to the trail, and we got out and we started hiking, and we ran into their other group of friends, and I'm getting a phone call. Oh, sorry. We ran into another group of friends. Sorry, I'm distracted by my phone. Another group of friends. We ran into the 3 people that I ran into, their friends. So there's like 6 of them total. Mike had been hanging out with like 6 women for 3 weeks, and I was like, I don't know how you're doing this, because he wasn't banging them. Because at one point they were all, there were 6 women, and they were all doing the lady thing, and I looked over at him, and he had pain in his eyes. He's like, 3 weeks of this. I was like, you needed me, man. You needed. I was like, let's talk some guy shit. Like, what's going on? You getting laid? Like, so anyway, we did that trail, and then we decided to part ways. They were staying. I'm trying to debate if I should tell you the rest of the story, just if I'm sticking to an hour, because I've got a little time. They told me that they were staying in Flagstaff, and they invited me over for dinner. But that was an hour and a half south, and I was going north the next day to Utah. And so I was like, I appreciate it, but I'm heading north. I'm gonna keep heading my way. And so I'm in their car. They pull up to my vehicle, and we hug goodbye. We exchange phone numbers and everything. And I get out, and I wave goodbye to them. And I grab my keys. I open up my vehicle, and I start taking my stuff off. And I start like feeling my pockets. And I'm like, oh no. I'm like, where's my phone? Where's my fucking phone? And it didn't take me long to realize that my phone was in their vehicle, which was now driving 75 miles an hour south to Flagstaff. You have to remember, these are people I've just met. I've just met them, so I don't know their last names by heart. I don't have their numbers memorized, nor do I have a phone to call them. And so I am forced into a conundrum of, okay, well, my phone's gone now, and it's heading south, and I'm heading north, and I have never navigated the continental United States without some sort of navigational system. So I had a small panic attack. I started freaking out. I was like, fuck, what the fuck? What am I going to do? And I'm going to leave it at that, folks, for this podcast. I'm going to pick it up there because the story just gets juicier along the way. But I'm going to keep it to an hour because I've got some other shit to do today. So I appreciate you guys listening. Keep doing your thing. Keep moving forward. Always a pleasure to have you. If you enjoyed this episode, you can sign up on Patreon at patreon.com/Trevor Ohlsen. Sign up for the Saturday podcasts every Saturday, just like this. Half hours, whatever. I'm not keeping too strict of a schedule, I suppose. But I just wanted to keep talking today. So you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Patreon.com/Trevor Ohlsen to sign up for the episodes. You can get all sorts of cool shit also when you sign up. Keep doing your thing. Keep moving forward. And we'll see you on Saturday.